Ego's fighting the big boys with a farm and ranch 20-inch chainsaw. This is the brand new 56 volt 20-inch farm and ranch chainsaw from Ego. The model number is the CS2000. Now there's a lot of cool features on this as well as some pretty big power claims. So let's jump right in and take a look at these features. And then of course we're going to use it. Can you tell? Wonder how many cuts we made. By the way, Ego did provide this saw, so this is a sponsored video. However, that never comes into play when we're offering our opinion and our thoughts on performance or any other factors and features of the saw or any tool. Ego's definitely stepping up a notch in their chainsaw category. They're releasing this new model number CS2000, and it's their 20-inch farm and ranch chainsaw running a full 3/8 050 chain, 69 lengths. It's got a full chisel design for the fastest cutting. We'll get into those details in just a moment. One of the biggest things that stood out at me was the chain speed of 25 meters per second. Now translating that into feet per second, and you're looking at a ripping 82 feet per second. Now, just to give you an idea on a farm and ranch saw, we have a Husqvarna 460 Rancher, which is a great saw, and chain speed on it is only 65 feet per second. So we're talking about another 20 feet per second faster with this Ego battery-powered chainsaw. Now, it runs on their 56 volt platform. It's recommended you can get it kitted with a 6 amp hour battery, so definitely recommend a 6 amp hour battery or more. Of course, you're going to look at runtime difference on anything smaller than that or larger than that, even if you go up to, say, a 7.5 or a 10 or a 12 amp hour as well. But definitely recommend at least a 6 amp hour. Now let's dive in here and take a closer look at each of these features. Now, obviously for safety reasons, we have the battery out of this saw, so there's no chance of this chain going while we're talking about it. Now this is supposed to be a 55cc equivalent, so that 460 Rancher I mentioned, very close to 55 cc's. I think it's right at 60 cc's. Regardless, one thing similar is the full chisel chain style. And what I mean by that is, if we take a look right here at the chain, here's the cutting teeth, and you have one that's left-handed faced and we have one that's right-handed faced. So basically this is the back side of the full chisel design. This is kind of the front side, if you will. The cutting side is over here, right here on the face and coming towards us. Now, if we look at a full chisel design, that's basically we got a square corner right here at the top. A semi-chisel would be kind of have a chamfer, kind of have a rounded corner. Now the full chisel design is going to cut much faster. However, it will wear faster as well. So you will need to sharpen this more often than like a semi-chisel design. But again, if you're looking for the fastest and best cutting, that's going to be that full chisel design, that big right-hand angle, real sharp corner right there. And that's going to give us that really ripping through that wood with the sharpening side here and the sharpened side up here, and that's what's actually cutting those wood chips. Now it is an LP, so you see the 3/8 LP, that tells us that's a low profile chain. Typically you'll see that on battery powered chainsaws. It just lessens the mass that it has to spin around the bar on the chain, so a little bit lower profile than a typical, just a regular 3/8 050 chain. But as far as the size between teeth, all that's still going to be the same. And this is a 69 link chain on a 20-inch bar. Now, another feature that really stuck out at me were these huge bucking spikes here. So big steel bucking spikes that will allow you to literally bite into that wood to get you some leverage so that you can then bury the chain. Now, the key in this is making sure that you have a saw powerful enough when you do kind of bear down and put some leverage on it, that it has the power to actually cut through the wood. So we will find that out here in one moment. Now, stepping right next door here is the oil tank, and you can see it's translucent, so if we have oil in here, we can easily see the level that it's at. We have a minimum line there to make sure that we're actually supplying oil to the chain. Taking the lid off is very easy, just a quarter turn. So you flip this up, turn it a quarter turn, comes right out. Obviously you can lay that down, put the oil in it, and we'll do that here in a few moments. Now, up under the saw, we will find the scrunch, and the scrunch actually has two different sizes on the wrench, and then we have the flat blade or standard blade screwdriver on the other end, and that's for tightening the tension on the chain. The larger end is going to give us that 3/4 inch or 19 millimeter size, and this should be a 13 millimeter half-inch size on that side. Not sure if there's any half-inch, but maybe that'll work on other chainsaws as well. But if we look at the bar nuts that are retaining the bar and chain, again, you can tell we're stepping up to a large form factor, full size captured nuts there. These are, again, those 3/4 inch or 19 millimeter if you want to go metric. And they're captured bar nuts, meaning, you'll see what I'm talking about here in a second. Number one, they spin off very easily, right now anyway, but they're captured and they stay there on the actual cover. That makes it very nice. Also have those steel sleeves in there, so you're not just squishing a piece of plastic, you're actually getting a good bite on that steel when you tighten those down. This is the tensioning or the tension screw where we can actually provide more tension. Obviously you can do that through this hole right here, but you can see it better now that we have the cover off. So if we take a look here with the bar off of here, let's carefully get this off. And we can see, number one, we have a 7-tooth sprocket. It's really not a tooth sprocket. The actual teeth fit down in the disc of the actual sprocket. And so again, 7-tooth design. And then this is our oiler here. So you see we have a little rubber gasket right there, a little hole there. That's where the oil actually comes out and lubricates this bar. Now, I did want to point something out. I highly recommend as you use this saw that every several times that you use this, you flip the bar over, because that's what it's made to do. You'll see a little hole right here. It doesn't go all the way through, just halfway through. If I flip this over, we'll see a hole right here as well. Now, when it's on the back side here, that's where that hole lines up with that oiler. And that's where it actually oils this bar, and the chain drags it all the way around this bar to the top and bottom side. So again, every several times that you use it, make sure that you're flipping this bar over, then it won't wear abnormally on one side or another. Also, highly recommend you to learn how to sharpen a chainsaw chain. It's not tough to do, it's really not. It takes a few minutes with a round file and you're good to go. Now, when you're tensioning your chain, especially on a 20-inch bar, what we want to have kind of in the middle of the bar is when you pull down on this, you should barely see the tip of those teeth there, of the teeth that drive on the sprocket. So when I'm pulling down, I got way too much gap there, so I'll tighten that up. And by the way, on a brand new chain, like on this brand new saw, or when you replace the chain and put a new chain on it, it's going to stretch rather quickly, so you can actually get away with tightening it a little more. So just with kind of a little bit of pressure, I'm going to tighten that just a touch more. You should see the top of those, barely see the top of those teeth. A little more, and I'm good now. And I'll tighten this down, good and snug. Check that once more. Yeah, we're good. Okay. Right here on the top, typical manual brake, just about like any other chainsaw. So forward, that's going to actually lock the chain, lock the bar and chain down, and then pull it back, and now you're ready to actually rotate the chain or pull the trigger. So we'll go ahead and make sure our chain brake is on, and we'll slide in our battery, lock that in, check the charge. Yeah, full charge. And then we're going to spin this around here. So you'll see on this saw we have an LCD screen, and I'll just bump the trigger here and turn that on. And so we have 3 different speeds that we can choose from. We have a speed button right here. We have a headlight and settings button right here. And you can see the little red mark right there telling us that the chain brake is on. If I pull that back, shows that it's off. I can also hit the speed button. That's speed 2 and then speed 3. Just to give you an idea. Speed 1, speed 2, and speed 3. I can turn the headlight on or the light, and it's actually got 2 different modes, so a low and a high. And if I hold this down, it can go into Bluetooth mode where we can actually access different items on our phone, see the status of charge, things like that. Right here on the front of the saw, right above the blade, is the LED light. There's low and there's high. So we'll give you a little bit of light for when you're working at dusk or dark. The Ego saw is also IPX4 rated, so that means that it's basically protected for, working in light rain. It's going to protect against any splashes, things like that. Now let's get some oil in this. It does have an 8.5 ounce tank, so it will hold a good amount of oil. So yeah, we got a nice full tank now and ready to go. Well, we definitely need some wood to cut, and we've got a downed oak tree from a recent storm, pretty large oak, and we're going to go ahead and cut the midsection out of this and use this for testing. By the way, this tree that we cut, right at a 1 foot diameter, 11.5 inch diameter. So not huge by any means. We're not pushing the limits of the 20 inch, but it'll still give you a good idea of the amount of cut, because their testing was in a 6x6 post, which most of your electric and battery powered chainsaws, that's what they test at. But that really doesn't mean a hill of beans to me. So we've got this, I'm gonna call it a 1 foot diameter fresh oak here in Florida, loaded with tons of moisture, and let's see how many cuts we can get, because they're claiming like 135 cuts out of a 6 amp hour battery on a 6x6 post. So let's see where we get. Now we cut a couple of chunks out of this tree, so we've already got like 5 cuts in as well. So let's go ahead and make a couple of cuts. So now you can see where I'm definitely utilizing those bucking spikes there and biting into that tree while I'm cutting. And how you can use that is basically keeping equal pressure on there as you're cutting. So I can get down there, get that spike in there. Now I can easily, I don't recommend cutting with 2 hands. You should always have that secondary hand up here, because if you do get a kickback, it's gonna lock that brake and then stop the blade. However, just showing you with that leverage, cutting very quickly. So there's 11 cuts in succession, as well as a plunge cut all the way through there on that battery so far. It looks like we've got 3 out of the 5 cells still good. So sure, if you're felling the tree, you're going to be making a lot more cuts in this. At the same time, it's not going to be equal to your typical 6x6 post. This is going to be much tougher. Now here's the deal. The Ego cuts really quick. It has the power to cut through this 1 foot, 12-inch diameter log with no problem. Now, can I stop it? Absolutely. So once I get some leverage there on the bucking spike, I can put enough pressure to stop the saw. However, if I just keep ample pressure, I'm keeping the saw moving. It's not like that I'm stopping and letting it speed up and I'm not backing it off the material, and I can actually start in the material. I just let off the trigger there. But what I wanted to point out was there are a lot of saws that, on the battery powered side anyway, on the cordless saws, that you can't start the saw in the material. I would actually have to bring it up, get it started, and then go. But I've got this all the way across here biting in that material, and I can just pull the trigger and start the saw. So that resistance is not keeping the saw from starting. But if you just grab this and really dig in, yes, you can stop it. A decent pressure. Great saw. Now I've got one flashing cell left on this battery. This is the original battery. I just made a few cuts on a new battery, but this is one flashing cell left on the original battery that we've cut everything else on. I'll be sure to separate which ones we've cut with this battery and the other one. So I'm going to see, can I get any more cuts out of this? Okay, there we go. So in their claims, I think they claimed 135 cuts in a 6x6 on one 6 amp hour 56 volt battery. Well, we didn't make it to 100, but we did make 39 cuts in a 12-inch freshly cut wet Florida oak tree. And is that something? Yeah, I think it's something. Maybe it's not the toughest hardwood you could find, but it's not like this 1 foot oak was a walk in the park. Now, as we mentioned, this thing has the power to cut right through these pretty quickly. Can you stall the saw? Absolutely. We showed you that, we explained that. So if you bury the bucking teeth and then really put a lot of leverage on it, you can stop the saw and do it without a lot of force. However, if you let it keep eating and you put equal pressure on it, keep putting pressure through it, it'll cut through these logs really quickly and pretty impressively as well. We did plunge cuts, no problem, sailed right through there. Again, keep your finger on the trigger, keep pushing through, and it eats right through really quickly. Now, the key to this is always keeping your chain sharp, and that goes with any chainsaw. So learn to sharpen your chain. You're gonna save a lot of money that way, and it's not that hard to do. You could probably sharpen this chain in 10 or 15 minutes and just do it with a round file and a flat file. So learn to do that. Maybe we'll do a tutorial video on how to do that. Anyway, as far as battery life, we think making 39 cuts in a tree is pretty good. So, and by the way, just like any other circumference or area, the less you get of this, it's exponentially smaller. So as you're growing, say a 4-inch limb has a lot less material than just a 6-inch limb, and that grows exponentially as things get bigger. So if we were cutting a bunch of 4-inch limbs along with these, you would get a lot more cuts in those 4-inch limbs than obviously we got in a full 12-inch oak tree trunk. The LCD display is pretty cool. Is it gonna last over its life? I sure hope so. Only time will tell on that. I like the fact that you really don't do a lot there other than kind of mess with the speed, and you can check battery status is right there in your face. So that's kind of nice to see. But as far as the speeds, I don't know where you would use this at a slower speed. I'm probably not gonna set it slower. I'm gonna leave it at high, make my cuts, whether I'm cutting, 2-inch limbs or 12-inch, 14-inch, 18-inch limbs, it doesn't matter. I'm probably gonna leave it in high. I'm sure there might be opportunities when you're cutting smaller stuff, you don't need all that speed, so it might be nice to then throttle that down. Also, the light up front, again, may be nice for the dark. I didn't really notice anything, obviously, in the daytime, but very impressive with the saw's performance. Let's talk about price. $299 for the bare tool. So if you just want the saw, you already have Ego 56-volt batteries. Any of the 56-volt batteries are going to work, so you can get this for under 300 bucks. Now, if you want to step up to a kit with the saw and a 6-amp-hour battery and a charger, you're looking at right at $500, $499. 5-year warranty on the tool, 5-year warranty on the chainsaw, 3-year warranty on the batteries. Hey, check it out for yourself. These are already out. They've already launched, so be sure to check them out. Also, keep track of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and even TikTok. And if you don't mind, would you hit that like and subscribe button if you haven't done so already? And by all means, if you hated our video, well, give us a thumbs down. But would you let us know in the comments why? Have a great day. Keep smiling.